Thank you, Deborah. I'm Dan Bryant. I am a pastor, a local pastor, First Christian Church in the heart of Eugene, but am here in my support role for the concept of Opportunity Village. I'm not going to repeat some of the statistics we've already heard. I would just begin by saying this is an epidemic. The number of homeless children, school-age children in our area increased over 20% just in the last year alone. 1.6 homeless children in the United States. I just learned that Shelter Care reports that they are able to assist 1 out of every 20 requests they receive. That's 5%. I mean, just let that sink in. That's 95% of the people that they turn away. Imagine being one of those caring people who receives the 35 to 50 unduplicated requests that they receive each week, and you are told, choose two that you can help. Yesterday on NPR, you may have heard the story, as I did, of the impact of lifelong poverty, especially on children, how it affects a child's ability to learn, their physical and mental development, their potential for earning a living. Homelessness multiplies all of those things several times. And if you know anything about Social Security in this country and how it works, you know it's not just the future income of that individual that's impacted, it's the income of every senior who depends upon Social Security. Right? That's just one of the ways in which we are all impoverished by our failure to adequately address this growing epidemic. So here are the two germane facts that I want to begin with. First of all, we have an epidemic. Second, there are no additional public dollars available from government sources to address this epidemic. It actually, I think, would be more honest and truthful to say there is not sufficient public will to find the dollars and the solutions to this epidemic. Because the dollars are there, we are just unwilling to use them because that is encouraging dependency or the redistribution of wealth, whatever you want to call it. In the tradition of the church in which I was raised, it is simply called social justice, which is the name we give to love when it is practiced by the whole community. And we practice that way too little. So for now, I accept the reality of inadequate public funds to address this problem. The good news is there are other public resources we can and should use, and there are successful models and best practices we can adopt. So I want to tell you just a little bit about what Opportunity Village Eugene envisioned using these ideas for our community. And just one disclaimer, I'm not a part of the steering committee that has developed this concept, but I'm helping them to organize the 501c3 to implement it. And we have others from the steering committee here, especially Jean Stacy, who is the chairperson and who we heard from earlier this year at City Club. After Occupy Eugene focused our community's attention on the problem of homelessness, providing a temporary place for several hundred of the unhoused to camp for several months, Mayor Kitty Piercy formed a task force of 58 community members involving a wide spectrum of the community, including business leaders, heads of various social agencies, faith leaders, representatives of the Occupy movement, and the City Council. And that task force put forward 6 recommendations to the Council, of which only one has been formally adopted so far. And that one was to establish a place where the homeless can simply be, as we put it. And we set a goal to find that place by October 1st. Well, obviously that's looking very unlikely. City staff has been working on a list of potential sites. I just learned this morning that what they will present to the City Council at the work session coming up next week is not an actual list, but a request for more assistance into developing the criteria to narrow that list down, because of the public, more than 400 public properties that are on that list, and needing to find a way to narrow that down. So it'll be well into October before we have an actual list to begin working with, and then of course there'll be some public process and lots of input, and be very unlikely anything will happen before the end of the year is my guess. And that's a shame, because of course during the winter is when it's the most difficult for these families. The task force was clear that any such program should not in any way take funds out of any other social service. It will benefit no one if we do no more than redirect money used to assist people in one program and then move it to another. There is much the city can do, however, in providing land and altering codes and laws that will greatly aid in establishing a legal and safe place for many of the homeless to be, that will then enable them to devote more of their energies to dealing with other issues so that they can return to self-sufficiency and a decent place to live. Once a location is established, and provided that the newly formed board for Opportunity Village is given the green light to use that, our vision is to create something entirely new for this community. So the first thing we have to do is erase our data banks from what we remember from the old car camp of the 90s, or more recently even from the Occupy camps. It will be no more like either of those two things than City Hall is like the new federal courthouse. Yeah, they are both public buildings, but one is an empty shell full of past memories, and the other is a shiny something of modernity. I'm not sure exactly what, but it's this beautiful, shiny public structure. And Opportunity Village Eugene will be sort of like that. Only maybe not as big or shiny or expensive, but just like that. It will be new and exciting, where important things happen that impact the lives of people in positive ways. So while it will not be like anything like that old car camp or even the Occupy camp, there are some important things we learned from those experiences. And I was not a part of that Occupy encampment, but I had two eye-opening experiences there. First, I saw the way that people in this community responded with their donations, bringing food and material and giving their time to helping the unhoused who were welcomed at the camp. And I realized there is tremendous potential and resource within this community waiting to be tapped. If we build it, they will come. Second, I got a little glimpse from the good that can come out of a self-governed community when you give those who have essentially been disempowered by the circumstances in their lives, have very little control over where they live, what they eat, what stuff they can keep, and then who are then empowered to regain some of that control. It's a powerful thing. The vision of Occupy Village is for a village, or villages, because it could be more than one site, that will provide residents with autonomy, responsibility, and respect so that they can live in stable, safe, and sanitary environments that are drug, alcohol, and violence-free, and which will then provide opportunity for each resident to renew their life goals and aspirations, improving their life conditions, and transitioning to a more permanent living solution. We envision pods of about 30 people, beginning with families, as our first priority. All those who are physically able will be involved in building their own structures, using recycled materials along the lines of that wonderful little micro house that we saw featured in the Register Guard, only not as expensive as that one was. And these simple structures will be heatable, most likely without water or electricity. But we hope that we will have a site where we have power and water available so that we can provide shower facilities and more than just a porta potty. The pods will be self-governing and will work together to share in common tasks like cooking, security, property maintenance, trash collection, eventually gardening, so that residents also participate in growing food for the community even beyond those of their own pod. We envision significant involvement from volunteers in the community so that the housed and the previously unhoused work together in new relationships, learning from each other skills that can benefit each. We're in dialogue already with people who have ideas on how to start up micro businesses that can help someone begin to earn a living, and those who have skills in permaculture to improve both the look and the function of any site. We're learning from experiences of places like Tent City No. 4 in Seattle and Dignity Village in Portland, who have been successfully operating similar places for a number of years. And I would note we are fortunate to have several representatives from Dignity Village here with us this morning, so I encourage you to get to know them and to ask them your questions. And what is especially encouraging about these models is that they provide safe, clean, and secure housing for people at a fraction of the cost of a traditional shelter. And so Opportunity Village will begin with a pod of 30 and add additional pods as we develop the capacity to do so, learning as we go. A single site might hold one, or it might hold several pods, but ideally we will not be limited just to one site so that other neighborhoods receive the benefit from having an opportunity village in their area. Pods may specialize so that one pod might only be for families, another only for women, another for couples without children, and so on and so forth. The point is that these self-governing, empowering pods will enable people to take control of their lives so that they can move back into being individuals that function in our community with respect and dignity and truly add value for all of us. We're excited about these possibilities, very hopeful that we will see that enabled very soon in our community to make a real difference, that we can change this epidemic here and change it as soon as possible. Thank you.